Hello everyone, my name's Dave Dustin. I'm going to be taking another look at the history of comics. Come follow along, take a look at it with me. We're going to discover some new stuff that's never been seen before, not even publicly released. We have some unpublished material once again. This episode is going to be about 1950s Avon Comics original publishers production pieces. This is kind of like a part two. You need to see my last videos. What arrived last time, the first package from this collection, it was horror and sci-fi comics from 1950s Avon, they're publishing, and just, I mean, like, wicked awesome, most fantastic discovery I've ever made. L.B. Cole original sci-fi artwork. I mean, it's got printer's proofs, unpublished cover art from Avon, early 1950s. Unpublished sci-fi art by Joe Kubert. Like, fantastic discovery. You have to see that first. But this is going to be like a part two because I got another package from that same seller. It's from Massachusetts. It was in this person's collection for the last like 10-12 years. It's just been sitting there, and before that it was bought from an ephemera dealer, and they had apparently got it from a storage locker in New Jersey. So that's kind of like the history behind where this was found. Some really awesome stuff here once again, just like last time. Some more unpublished stuff, some more printer's proofs. So we'll get into that. Gonna open this up real carefully right here, right now. I'll open this side. Okay. Let's cut open the corners. It's going to come out. All right, slide out. There we go. All right. Okay. Let's see what we got. Oh, hold on, we got some tape. Okay, so I don't even know where to start. Right here near the top. See, I'll start with this as close to the top. This is really cool. Escape from Devil's Island. See that? That is original hand-drawn text from the cover of the comic. See that there's some, there's a big square of glue here. That's from the skull. You can see there's pencil marks that didn't get inked over. There's some blue pencil also that wouldn't get picked up in any of the photo stats. Escape from Devil's Island. Hand drawn. Oh, there's nothing on the back. A lot of times there's stuff on the back, nothing on the back. Okay. So, see, this is why I got this set. A big reason. I had in my last package some original artwork that is directly related to multiple pieces in this package here. So this one, you can see, it's directly related to this. Everett Raymond Kinsler original artwork. It's got some blue pencil there also. See that nicely? That could be a cover on its own. That's fantastic. You see glue all over the back from when it's glued on the original. That's what this square is here. It was touching here while the glue was wet and it stuck apparently. So anyway, that's the skull face, and it comes from this here, Escape from Devil's Island. Now, this text is not from the original. This skull is. So this would have been original artwork from the Avon comic. This text is not from the original. It is from the reprint. Dynamic Adventures number 9, 1958 IW Super reprint. So you can see that when they reprinted it, they changed a bunch of stuff. So because the Comics Code had come into effect, these are not under the Comics Code, but they still made revisions. So he doesn't have a knife in his hand anymore. He has a club now. People being whipped just have lines. They're not red with blood anymore. And you can see the skull face was removed, so there's no horror element on the cover anymore. And Escape from Devil's Island is made smaller, so they changed the title Dynamic Adventure, but they still put Escape from Devil's Island at the top. You can see the word from is in lowercase now and not uppercase. And also some of the letters are up higher and down lower, they're not straight in line like on the original. But the big thing is the word from, lowercase, there's lowercase. So this lettering is not the Avon original. This lettering is from IW Super Comics 1958 when they reprinted it. That is what I discovered. All this artwork is got to be from, it's got to be the IW Super artwork that they had when they had purchased other printers' works and they had reprinted everything back in the 50s and early 60s. I'll tell you a bit about that. So a lot of people might not know about IW Super. So I'll tell you, IW Super. So this is from the GCD Grand Comic Database, IW Publications. IW Publications, 1958 to 1964, was part of IW Enterprises and named for the company's owner, Israel Waldman. So you can see on the top cover here, IW, in triangle, Israel Waldman. Reportedly, Waldman came into possession of a printing company, and among the assets were the production materials for several hundred comic books previously published by various publishers, as well as a limited amount of previously unpublished material. Waldman equated possession of production materials as the right to reprint, and IW became notable for publishing unauthorized reprints of other companies' comics, often with new covers, as Waldman's windfall did not often include the production materials for covers. That's interesting. The later half of the company's existence, it published comics under the Super Comics name. Usually these companies were out of business, but not always. So they had reprinted 332 comics in total, it says online. It says 1958 there was about 240 of them. And then they didn't print anything else for like 5 years. In 1963 they came out with about 80 more. And then in 1964 about a dozen, and that was the end of it. So then also look at the Wikipedia description of IW Comics. The company was known for its low-budget products. Most of IW's comics were sold in grocery and discount stores, often in 3 comics for a quarter plastic bags. So I had stuff like that up here. Like when I was growing up in Toronto, Canada, we had, you get poly bags where there's 2 or 3 comics in a bag for $1 or something like that. I remember having stuff like that. And then Waldman was able to sell them cheaply because in many cases he was able to supply the letterpress plates they were printed from. So that's the printing plates, the printing matrices, and thus avoid paying for new ones. How a man who gives little evidence of being interested in comics before emerging as an extremely low-end publisher came to have such production materials is simply that he bought out defunct publishers' storage facilities, purchasing physical materials only and ignoring intellectual property rights. In many cases, he dealt with Eastern Color Printing, which did most of America's comics, for materials their publishers had left behind when they went out of business. And then it goes on further on Wikipedia. The numbering of most of the company's titles is misleading, often not starting at issue number 1 and skipping issue numbers. So a lot of them are just number 9 is the only issue, or number 12 is the only issue. Incredibly, the company produced 118 separate titles, but only 332 individual issues. Many titles only published a single issue. The company published only 1 comic book with original material, Marty Mouse number 1 in 1958, featuring talking animal stories. So the other 331 comics, all entirely reprints. It says here, some IW Super Comic titles use original cover art. Illustrators include Jack Abel, Ross Andrews, Saul Brodsky, Carl Brugos, Mike Esposito, and John Severin, lettering by Ben Oda. So, because they didn't have all the material for reprinting the covers, they had some covers made up for them. Apparently they got more interiors than covers. So just to show you, here is a pile of IW Super Comics that I have. You got Daring Adventures, Eerie. So they mix and match the titles also, kind of like Superior Comics, Century Publications did up here in Toronto, Canada, 40s and 50s. So this Eerie does not have Eerie inside of it. It does not have, actually the cover is from Strange Worlds number 6. The title is Eerie. It's neither. It is Spook Comics number 1 inside. They mix and match covers. Some other stuff they edited some covers. Like this is supposed to be vampire. They took out the fangs. So it's just the guy's teeth. Here's another example, Eerie. They changed his skull to some strange looking face. They changed the skeleton at the bottom to a bunch of rocks. So they did some censorship as well when they were putting out these comics. Your Fantastic Adventures. So here's a couple that they never had covers. So I don't even know how they got this, but this is Zor #3 is inside here. Published in Toronto, Canada, 1946. It was published with no cover because it was not distributed here in Toronto, Canada. It was only distributed in London, England by Streamline Books in 1946 when Century Superior started making comics and they tried international waters. Only that one year it didn't work out. They never did it again. And then they started getting reprints in the UK anyway. But so they made this cover, Fantastic Adventures. It's thought that this is unpublished material, but no, we published it. And then there's also Full of Fun is another one by I.W. Super. This is Bailey Publications artwork inside. It was called Barrel of Fun on the original artwork that got auctioned off. And then they probably changed it to Full of Fun because they also had a comic called Pot of Gold and they changed that to Trophy. But anyway, this was published 1946, Century Superior here in Toronto, Canada, and only distributed in the UK, no cover. So they made this cover for it. Here's one that's kind of spectacular. We got Strange Planets #1. So this actually reprints the EC comic Incredible Science Fiction #30. And then EC found out about it. They were still around. They weren't publishing comics anymore, 1958, but they were still doing Mad Magazine. They sued IW Comics, and then IW Super never reprinted any more EC material. This is the only EC material they did inside here. But they kept printing everyone else's stuff. We got Avon stuff being reprinted here, like Strange Planets, Top Adventure. So that's IW Super. That's what all this artwork is from. So IW Super, Israel Wellman, he bought out this Publisher's Warehouse, and he got all this Avon original artwork. There's a whole bunch of Avon hand-drawn stuff from the early 50s. There's a bunch of printer's proofs, there's reverse negatives, there's lettering, there's all this stuff. And then there's also mixed in, there's some IW Super stuff from 1958, like that there. And I also had this hand-drawn original lettering for Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. This is IW Super 1958. And also in the last set, I have this printer's proof, Man o' Mars. And this lettering style was not the original Avon. This is IW Super redid the lettering, 1958. So all this stuff came from IW Super. These are Israel Wellman's copies that he had taken out of a publisher's place. And this is original Avon stuff mixed in. And they had done all these reprints in 1958. So I don't think anyone's seen any of this stuff probably since 1958. It's been the last time a lot of this stuff was even looked at. So we'll get back to this, what came. Now the history lesson's over. Oh yes, we got some more Escape from Devil's Island. These are the printer's proofs. This one has 101 written on the back. Reverse negative. That's why I figured that this was going to be the original artwork, because I saw that these two, you can see the gloss on them, and this one didn't have the gloss. So I was really like, that's got to be original. That's got to be hand drawn. Okay, now let's see what else we got. I'm going to put these aside. And we'll look at the jungle stuff. I'm going to take all this stuff out. Okay. Start with #1. Okay, so White Princess of the Jungle #1, 1951 Avon comic. And you can see what I have here. Printer's proof. The cover, you see the lettering hasn't been put in, the red lettering there. There is the printer's proof, #1. So that's really neat. And then I had also mixed into here the reverse negative of the printer's proof. Oh, we got both of them here. That's cool. Let's see. alligator and two apes and a gun. Well, that's strange. Oh, that's great. This is really cool. Okay, so this is Avon printers proofs, because when IW reprinted these, they changed the titles on them and that to different titles, and they changed some of the artwork. But these are both titled White Princess of the Jungle. This is number 1. You see here. So this is just a printout. This is what number 1 looks like, and it has Tanda, who's this redhead heroine from the jungle. She's being attacked. There's an alligator here, a crocodile, and then there's like an ape attacking her, a gorilla or something, and a guy also attacking her apparently. And that's the way it is on the black and white printer's proof. But if you look on this reverse negative, it's two beasts. It's a second ape, I think. It looks like a second or whatever it is attacking her. Looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit like a werewolf. I'm not sure what that is. It's not the guy though. So this is the original printer's proof. I'm gonna zoom in on all this stuff. I'm gonna make another video where I'm gonna take a close-up look at it all. But if you can see that it's like a monster attacking her, and they changed that monster into a guy wearing a hat. Well, that's crazy. That's probably never been seen before. Nobody's ever seen this. Like, nobody knows where the original artwork is, that's crazy. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna take a closer look at all this stuff. That I was not expecting that. When they moved the signature also. So Everett Raymond Kinsler had his signature at the bottom, then that's where they put the text box, and he moved his signature up here. Well, that's interesting. I did not expect that. You couldn't really tell. Wonder, is that another gorilla? It looks a little different though. I'll show you the close-ups. That's strange. Wow. Okay, so anyway, we will move on. So here is White Princess of the Jungle number 2. Fights the Witch Doctor Murder Cult. You see, IW Super did reprint this. They changed her to a guy. Still has the bad guy riding an elephant in the background. This is now titled Kanga number 1, 1958 IW Super. But anyway, White Princess of the Jungle. So in my last group, I had this printer's proof here. It's got a little cutout for the head that you can see right there. So this is the original Avon, because IW changed the title to Kanga. So there's, Witch Doctor Murder Cult. So that's neat. That goes with that. Oh, and then there's also, pull this out. There's a reverse negative. Or this has changed it all. And Kinsler, it looks like it's the same. You can see everything so much more clearly on these proofs compared to the cover of the comic. Like I said, I'm going to zoom in on all this stuff. I'm going to put it all out on the floor, lay it all out. Give everyone a nice good look at all these printers' proofs. Then so this is White Prince of the Jungle number 3, 1952, Avon. I don't have a proof for it, but in my last package with the horror comics was this proof for the text, for lettering: Army of Terror, Black Death, Ant Invasion, Blue Gorilla. Those are the stories in this. Here's the back. Okay, so then move on. So here is White Princess of the Jungle number 4, 1952. So what IW Comics did is they made up this brand new lettering. You can see it's got the glue on it from the original artwork, with some writing on it, blue pencil. They changed the title to Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. So they changed her also. So she's not a redhead anymore. They made her a brunette, and they covered the top. They retitled it Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. So that's the original art. That came in my last group also with the horror sci-fi stuff. And you can see that's the IW Super 1958 Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. That's really cool. So I have the original hand-drawn lettering for that right there. And then to go with that is this printer's proof. It's really neat too. It's hard to see, but there are pencil marks around some of the background here, and there's lines going off as if there must have been notes made. There's stuff circled. It must have been for the coloring of the background. So there must have been notes from like the colorist that got cut off there. There's the original printer's proof right there from Avon Comics. So that's really neat. And then finally we have White Princess of the Jungle number 5. 1952. And to go with that, we have once again printer's proof. See, it's got a bit of a stain. There's a piece missing from the bottom. That's pretty cool right there. And then we see IW Super actually did reprint this also. They retitled the cover Wombi number 8, 1958 IW Super. So what they did is they covered up, they made the bra a bit bigger to cover up the cleavage, and then they did a paste over and they put a boy's head on the woman's body. Retitled it. So yeah, that's Tan, the White Princess of the Jungle, with a boy's head on her body. So that's all the jungle stuff, the White Princess of the Jungle. Then, coming up after that, we have some Boy Detective. So there is Boy Detective number 1. Right there. So from... So some of these printers proofs got mixed up. So I have seen some Boy Detective stuff that go into another group that I don't have. And then there's another one that is coming up. Yeah, it's like all these groups. They have stuff mixed in that don't belong. But anyway, so from Boy Detective number 1, so I found these already. So you can tell from the text, the top and text bubbles. So that's page 1 of Boy Detective number 1. And here is the story, that's the new story that starts on page 15. It's about the Statue of Liberty. You can see a little bit of the Statue of Liberty up there in the title. So what I have from there is this. We have the printer's proof for the lettering. That's page number 1. You can tell from the text in the text boxes. And this smaller one is that first part. You can tell by the little piece of the Statue of Liberty. Page 15, I think it is. So then the other stories that they came out with is number 2, Boy Detective battles the Vice Lords of Crime. Then we have Boy Detective number 3, fights the Spy Menace. So to go with that, I have printer's proof, reverse negative. So that's cool there. That's February 1952. You can see so much more inside the proof. So much clearer in black and white. I think that looks all the same. I don't think there are any changes on that. That's cool. So that, and then there was Boy Detective number 4, June 1952, and that was the final issue published. So what's really neat is what was never published, Boy Detective number 5, October, November 1952. Unpublished cover art, Everett Raymond Kinsler. They never published a number 5. You can see there's some writing on the back here, where it says. I'll give everyone a closer view. Like I said, everything I'm going to lay out on the floor and zoom in on it all. another video. Right there. Boy Detective number 5. E.R. Kinsler, signed to the bottom. So I've also flipped this and printed it out using Photoshop. So that's what the cover would look like. October, November 1952. Unpublished cover art for Boy Detective number 5. So that's real neat. Some more unpublished artwork. IW Super did not reprint any of these Boy Detective comics at all. They didn't use any of this cover. They had all these covers that they could have used, and they didn't use any of them. So anyway, that's the end of this lot. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and keep an eye out for part 3 coming up. That's right. There is another package on the way, a final package. Part 3 is going to have some really cool stuff in it too. Once again, it's more 1950s Avon Comics. We're looking at more printers proofs. We're looking at maybe some more original artwork, some more stuff that's never been seen before, some more unpublished stuff. So it's going to be fantastic. That's going to be coming up next time.